Anthony Anderson is the creator, star, writer, director of Anacostia. I'm Matt Noble of Gold Derby, and I wanted to kick things off by asking you, Anthony, where were you when you found out you were an Emmy nominee this year?
Oh man, I was actually, so I had just finished watching the live broadcast with JB Smoove and them presenting the Emmy nominations. And I knew that they weren't going to do everything. So I, like everyone else, rushed over to the Emmy site and was trying to update. And nothing would happen. It was like 10 minutes, literally 10 minutes. And I kept updating. Then I said, you know what? That's probably God telling me that I don't want to see it. So I just started working. And 5 minutes later, I started getting a series of text messages saying, OMG, congratulations. OMG, congratulations. I'm like, this better not be a joke. And I called one of my friends in LA and she was screaming on the phone, was like, you're nominated for a primetime Emmy. You know, it's like, no way, I can't see it on the site. It literally took me 20 minutes to find it on the site. And once I saw it, I just, it was a combination of things. I started screaming. I woke my son up. He ran downstairs like, what's wrong? And I was crying and I was trying to get it out like, And he was like, what's wrong, Dad? I was like, I'm nominated. He was like, that's all? I was like, anyway, kid, he's 17. But yeah, I will never forget that moment. I called my mom and was crying. So yeah, it was a long day of congratulatory texts and more crying and a few drinks.
Well, you're nominated the actor in a short form comedy and drama category for your web series. And I think something that's really interesting is this show, Anacostia, started in 2009.
Yes.
Right? Which was I think 7 years before this category even existed
Absolutely.
at the Emmys. So when you started this, there wasn't even this opportunity to be recognized for the show in this way. Do you want to just like talk about sort of how you as a maker of the show, how it's evolved over that like longer than a decade worth of you putting this story, telling this story and playing this character?
Yeah, so we started in 2009, like you said, 13 years now, 60 episodes, 6 seasons. And when we started, there was none of this. Like there was just maybe a few festivals that we could submit to. So that's the most that any of us could really hope for was the festivals. And then a couple of years into it, I think by our 3rd season, the daytime Emmys started welcoming web series. And by the 2nd year after that, I said, I'm gonna go ahead and submit the show. I feel like we have really good content and why not? And lo and behold, I submitted it to the Daytime Emmys in 2014, and in 2015, we got our first 2 Daytime Emmy nominations, one for Outstanding New Approaches Drama Series and the other for Outstanding Performer in the New Approaches Drama Series for Martha Byrne. And Martha Byrne actually won that year. So, and then from there, I think subsequently from there, for the next 3 or 4 years, we would get Daytime Emmy nominations. So I never imagined that something that I created just out of sheer frustration for being an actor and not really finding the work that I wanted would rise to a level of a Daytime Emmy, much less now a primetime Emmy. So never saw it.
Yeah, well, you were nominated at the Daytime Emmys too, which means I think you might be one of the first person that's ever been nominated for a primetime and a Daytime Emmy for playing the same sort of character, for portraying the same role.
Yeah, I actually was told that, and I think some people are actually are trying to verify that, like before I start saying it, really, because I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, I do believe that I am the first person to be nominated for a daytime and a primetime Emmy for playing the same role on the same show. So yeah, I think that's rather something.
Yeah, nice little feather in your cap. So Anthony, talk to us, like, how is it different filming that first episode of the show all those years ago to now in your sixth season putting together an episode? Like, because just so much of the landscape and just how you create has changed in that time.
Well, I make a joke with the cast that I can't even watch the first season, because it was kind of primitive and I really didn't know what I was doing. We shot it on mini DV, if anyone remembers what that is. And it wasn't until we got into more of an HD type of filming that the show like really elevated. But I feel like what has always grounded us has been our great storylines that are in the show. And that's the one thing that has never changed. The production of the show has changed from season 1 to season 6, but the storylines haven't. And I think one of the main things that really elevated us was in season 3 was the addition of Martha Byrne from As the World Turns, who played Lily Snyder, multiple Daytime Emmy Award winner. And when she came on, I knew that I didn't want to let her down, because I knew that her peers would be watching the show. So I made a conscious effort to, whatever I could do, elevate this show. And I feel like I've constantly elevated it each season.
What you said, like, it's always important, the story, and trying to keep that consistent in terms of quality and elevated also, as you say. What is the most important thing as you approach the episodes and the story of this show that you want to get right and that you're trying to hit?
I think the most important thing is just honesty. Is just telling a true to life, honest story. And when you do that, it doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter if you're Black or white, gay, straight. If you tell an honest story, it'll resonate with people. And I think when you look at our comments on the comment section of the episodes, you can see people identify with the storyline and with some of these characters. And they've develop such a vested interest in the characters of the show, because they can relate to the character. And I think that's the most important thing when you're doing anything, is to just be honest.
One of the great things about this category at the Emmys is it does give an opportunity for independent content creators to be recognized in this way. And it really is, your show is an independently made and produced and put together piece. It's not some big studio thing. Is that, as an independent content creator, is it freeing or is it limiting creating in that environment, in that space?
It's a combination of both. It's freeing in the aspect that, so we don't have, as they say, network suits to tell us what we can do, what we can't talk about, who we can hire, who we can't hire. So it's freeing in that way. And we can tell the stories and I can tell the stories that I want to tell, that I feel like me growing up watching television, the representation of people who look like me weren't really on television. So now I have an opportunity to present that to the world, right? It's limiting in the fact of the budget. The budget. Everything always comes down to the budget. We would like to do this, but we don't have the budget for it. So we have to do this instead. So there's been a lot of that in production meetings, like, well, I would like to do this. And our finance people be like, well, you don't have the budget for that. Really, you just barely scraping by. You should be lucky that we finished the season, really. So it always amazes me how we can get to 60 episodes, 6 seasons, without any type of backing behind us as far as a major studio, not even YouTube, by the way. But for us to do it and to rise to the level that we have, it just tells me that there's a purpose for this show, and that I'm on the right path. I mean, we would love to have sponsors come in and like really elevate the show to where I would really like to do it. But until that happens, we'll just pull our money together and do it.
Can you think of any moments that like may have turned out like, you know, little magic moments or something that because of those limitations, because of that budget, and you had to make do, that a really nice sort of organic sort of moment came out of it, or that you maybe even think it was ended up being better because you didn't have the big budget, or?
I think one of the main ones that stand out is, so we had this whole elaborate hospital scene written down, and I kept going to all these different facilities, and they were giving me all these astronomical numbers to rent out the place. And I was like, I can't do that. We don't have that type of money here. And lo and behold, Matt, sometimes you have to look right next to you. My best friend worked at a doctor's office, right? So I just went to her and said, hey, look, do you think it's a possibility that we could shoot in that office? She said, well, let me ask the doctor. And she called back 20 minutes later. She said, yeah, what day you guys want to come? And we shot in that office, and we were so efficient about shooting in that office for free that they invited us back when we needed to come back the next season. And so that's something to where you can't let the money or the lack of the money like really stop you. You just try to keep on doing it. And it's like I said, if it doesn't, it may not look the way you wanted it to look, but if you keep going, it'll get done.
But and being in a real doctor's office, it probably was like a really authentic scene. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like, yeah. So that's cool. They didn't make you, you didn't have to spend too long in the waiting room before you shot, did you?
No, but oddly enough, a major prop that day was a headache, because a major prop that I thought I had in my car was left at home. And the site was in DC, and I was in Montgomery County, which was like maybe 40 minutes away. So I had to drop everything I was doing, run back home, get it, and come back. So, but everything got done. But it turned out to be an incredible location, and that was the episode that got us our first daytime Emmy nomination.
There you go, fantastic. So you're nominated for acting this year. So like in season 6, is there a particular scene or moment that's your favorite that you got to perform as Sean?
Yes. I think the submission episode that I submitted for the Primetime Emmys, it was basically, so my character Sean identifies as a member of the LGBTQ community, and he was in the process on his wedding day. His husband Julian was killed in an explosion by a gentleman who was not too fond of two men getting married in a church. And so he's been trying to put the pieces together, grieving, but trying to sort of like make sense of it. And in the middle of making sense with this death, his best friend of years, Mia, who's wonderfully played by Tamika Chavis, she decides to tell him that one night a long time ago, she and Julian had a one-night stand. And I loved playing that role because anything that I do on screen with Tamika Chavis is just magic anyway, because as an actor, you need someone to sort of bounce it off of. And she does that wonderfully. But that back and forth with her, those are real tears. Like, those are not acting tears. Those are real tears, because she's crying, I'm crying. There's a history with these characters. We've been playing them for 13 years. We're really good friends in real life. So we sort of put ourselves in those roles of, what would this feel like? She would feel so low that I did this, and now I'm telling you because someone threatened to tell you if I didn't. And he's thinking, well, I've told you everything about my life. There's nothing I've ever hidden from you. Why would you hide this from me? So I think that was probably that episode. I think season 6, episode 9 is probably the one that I look at and I smile. And fortunately, it got the nomination.
Yeah, and like I think with that scene, and also when Sean's talking with his friend later on about it, some real big like themes it's touching on is friendship and forgiveness, and sort of how those things work. And I just like, how are you wanting to approach those sort of themes and issues through the back end of the season?
Well, I felt like friendship is a good friendship has so many layers to it. You have this person that has come into your life from wherever, you found this person, you have really become kin to this person. They're sort of that they really become second family. And so what happens when that person that you love like a family member betrays you? Where do you find the strength in that friendship to sort of look at the friendship and weigh it and say, well, you know, this is something that I can forgive, or this is something that is unforgivable? And that's sort of like later on in the episode when I'm having the discussion with Will Lash, who plays Scott, and he says, is this something that you really can't forgive her for? I think that happens in real life with friends. We get into arguments, we have disagreements, but a true test of a good friendship is that we're going to have that argument, we're going to have that disagreement, we may take our time apart, but we're going to come back, love on each other, and move on.
Yeah. And I think in the season final too, like from more of your perspective as a director, you got to play around with like black and white and jump in between. Like that's sort of a fun thing. You got to like do some new stuff this season.
Yes. So I had that idea. So we're sort of delayed because we got affected by COVID like everyone else. So this season was supposed to have happened in 2020. So right as that happened, we got struck with COVID. And I had this grand idea of the whole stormy weather, black and white type of big jazz band, Great Gatsby type of feel of this party. And when I spoke to our director of photography, Spencer Brudick, I said, listen, I want us to alternate between black, really beautiful black and white, and then when the real drama starts to pop off, there's a fade from the black and white to this color. Like, okay, everyone is in this dreamlike sequence, but now something is happening really real and it starts to morph. And as a director, I felt like when I was looking at it in the editing session, I just had tears in my eyes. Like, that's what I wanted. And so whenever I get what I want on this show, as far as what I see in my head, it just sends me to bed with a huge smile on my face.
Mm. And that episode was dedicated to Gladys Etta Blackshear. What does she mean to you?
That woman, she was a local singer in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, very well known, a great jazz singer. And I wanted us to have an authentic vibe to the episode, right? And my co-star, Antonio Harrison, said, I know a woman who sings. And we met her. I told her what I wanted. She said, oh, baby, I'm not coming by myself. I'm going to bring a whole band with me. And I was like, well, how much is that going to cost us, Miss Gladys?
Yeah, the budget guys giving you a call.
Because, you know, I have to, how much is that going to cost us, Miss Gladys? And she said, oh, no, baby, trust me, it'll be fine. And she got there, and I was kind of nervous because I was running around doing so much that week. I didn't have a chance to see them rehearse. So I didn't know what it sounded like or anything. And when they got there and started performing, everything was great. She really elevated our production. But sadly, right after that production, right after we wrapped, we got word that Miss Gladys had came down with COVID. And she called me from the hospital because we were putting the final touches on the episode, and she said, I can't wait to see it. This is what I've always wanted. Like, I've always wanted to be on TV. I can't wait to see it. And I said, we're going to get it out on December 31st. Don't worry. And on December, I think 29th, I got a phone call that she had passed. So we decided to dedicate the episode and actually the season to her, because she's the embodiment of what it is that we do as independent artists.
And just one final question quickly, Anthony. Through working on this show for so many years, what is the number one thing you've learned?
I've learned so much. I've learned patience. I've learned that you can't listen to people when they tell you no. I've learned an incredible amount of resiliency. And I've learned that anything you want, you can get it as long as you work hard for it and do it honestly. And it does not cost you anything to be a nice person. That's what I've learned all this time. So I'm hoping that these Emmy voters will check it out. It would be great to win. It would be great to win. It would send a great message to the independent artists. So I'm looking forward to September the 4th.
Well, congratulations on the nomination, Anthony. All the best for the Emmy Awards and for the future of the show too. And people watching this interview can go to goldderby.com to make your own award predictions and join discussion in the forums. Anthony, thanks so much for giving up your time today.
Thank you so much for having me, Matt.